Hello everyone, welcome to the very first episode of What's Going On in Japan Tech Market. In this episode, I sat down with my colleague Shawn Da Silva, who focuses on IT leadership as well as business transformation roles. We touched topics like what are the biggest challenges companies are facing right now due to the pandemic. We also discuss what would be the future technology disruption a job seeker should prepare himself or herself, as well as we touched on the trending jobs as well as the salaries in his area. We went further and talked about what does Sean do to unwind himself, how does it feel to be a vegan in Tokyo, and how does Sean keep himself up to date with the technology. So please enjoy this podcast and let me know what you guys want to hear next. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel.
All right, so good afternoon. This is the first episode of What's Going On in Japan Tech Market. We have here with us a tech recruiter from Robert Half Japan, Shawn Da Silva. So Sean, would you like to introduce yourself a bit?
Hmm. Uh, Thank you, AB. So yeah, as you said, yeah, I'm a tech recruiter here at Robert Half, and I've been in the recruitment business for about 2 years now,
Wow.
coming from a marketing background. Yeah.
I see. So marketing background. I know that you have been in YouTube. I mean, you were working in
Mm.
YouTube as a professional. So from YouTube to
Mm.
recruitment. So what brought you in
Mm.
recruitment?
Well, I guess I guess I have to go back before even YouTube.
Yeah.
Before I was working on the YouTube team at Google, I was actually doing PR and marketing for fashion companies.
Wow.
And I used recruiters to get both jobs actually to switch from one fashion company to another, and then also to go to Google. And I had a great experience with a lot of them. With
Yeah.
some of them, I were very professional, and I also have friends that were recruiters. And when I was looking for my next job, someone here at Robert Half said, "How about joining us?" And that's
I
where my
see.
story began. Yeah.
Wow. So it's more like
Mm.
you were using recruiters as a service, and then you
Yeah.
yourself joined recruitment because it was so kind of thrilling, I'd say.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I wanted to learn more about business ultimately is what it came down to. Yeah.
I see. Very interesting.
Mm.
So I think if you can tell us something more about what is your primary focus as a tech recruiter, that would really
Mm.
help our guests to learn more about your specialization.
Yeah, great. So my main focus is IT leadership. I work on a small team. There's three of us, and we focus on IT leadership, mostly focusing on business transformation, a little bit of data science, data analyst, BA, BI, this type of that upper echelon of the IT internal structure. That's what my main focus is.
I see. Lovely.
Mm.
So, as a kind of a tech recruiter right now, like,
Mm.
what are the biggest challenge your industry is facing right after the pandemic, or once the pandemic just really began since 2020?
Mm. Well, I think for a lot of us, when the first state of emergency happened, the market froze. It was like panic mode. Like, what are we
Right.
gonna do? So everything slowed down, and then we saw that there was a little more panic from foreign companies that had to get approval for hiring. So they were a little more reluctant to do permanent contracts, moving more to like an interim solution. But we've seen that there's been a large trend towards business transformation roles, because I feel that a lot of corporations were caught with their pants down in the sense that they weren't ready to have the whole entire office work remotely. They weren't ready to have a flex time schedule, and basically the world told them, "Hey, get ready." So we've seen a lot of hiring around that. Digital transformation within. Moving to cloud services has been massive. I think Salesforce has been, in the news talking about how, they've seen a lot of growth. Companies like Zoom, for example. I had never heard of Zoom, before 2020, and here we are using Zoom to communicate.
Definitely.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of change around these types of IT positions.
Exactly. Even, myself, I was actually trying to launch a podcast for a very long time, but
Mm,
ever since Zoom came, it became so easy and we can do it so fast nowadays. So I
yeah.
think you mentioned that in your industry there has been a huge transformation and there has been a lot of
Mm,
hiring as well, like in business transformation. So what do you think
mm.
right now? Is it a candidate short market or how's the overall pool of jobs?
Yeah, if we had discussed this at the end of last year, I would have said, oh, we're still in pandemic mode. But I would say, as of probably February of this year, we're at least in my the focus area, we're back to the way things were in 2019. We are job heavy, candidate short, and a lot of a lot of it's been really difficult to find certain candidates because they're in such high demand right now. Um, because everyone wants them. Everyone is trying to move to the cloud. Everyone's trying to switch to SAP or some sort of Salesforce integration, update their CRM. Uh, Everyone is doing it. Everybody, all industries, all sectors, retail. They're moving to e-commerce, so they need to get everything updated as well. So just basically everybody, even the traditionally slow markets or industries rather.
Got it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what would be the suggestions now to your candidate and client? Like, for example, they're now like they're transitioning to a very different world. Just want to know more
Mm.
like what you'd like to suggest to your candidates and clients in this new world.
Um, I would say for my clients, I would say to properly assess how important this transformation is for you and how quickly you need to do it.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, understand that right now there is a high demand for exactly what I said, right? Like everyone is doing a digital transformation. And then additionally, right now in Japan, it's very hard for foreigners to enter. So you can't, it's really hard to attract foreign talent right now. So you're dealing with the candidate pool that we have in Japan. That's your only option at this sense, right?
Yeah.
And then additionally, we've also had an exodus of some talent, right? Like people have reassessed what is important to them. A lot of people want to live close to their families. They haven't been able to go home for a year. So we've seen an exodus of talent as well. So with that in mind, properly assess the value of the salary that you want to offer, because I really need this talent, and they set the bar here, and we tell them that no, the bar needs to be here, and they can't even move to here, and then a few months later they come here, but now the whole market is adjusted upward again.
I
So
see.
they're chasing a ball that's going down a hill when they could have put the barrier before it even started rolling down the hill, right?
Got it.
So I would say listen to us. We're not being greedy at the end of the day. Of course we charge a fee to our clients, and but the difference between like this amount of salary, what we receive is not that much. We're telling you this because it's underpriced. And when we go to these candidates and we tell them, hey, we have 3 opportunities here and 2 down here, most likely they're all exciting. They're all digital transformation. They're all dealing with new technology. Of course, they're going to choose the top, oh, it's all exciting. Oh, we want to choose the top 3, right? Like, please send me there first, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the advice I would give to them. Yeah.
So I think
And for my
just
client, go ahead.
I mean, just to add some point, like you mentioned that the overall market for transformation specialists were pretty much undervalued. So right now they're coming to a point where it's more like fair for everyone. So clients should be more aware and they should, pay
Yeah.
the right money, which they should.
Yeah, yeah. And on top of that too, traditionally it's you assess the year before, right? But
Yeah.
last year everything went down. There was candidates, a lot of people lost their jobs, so they were taking opportunities that they normally wouldn't. A lot of people took a salary decrease. You can't assess someone on what they made in 2020. You have to go on 2019.
Got it.
And that's just fair, I think.
Hmm. So, what would you tell to the candidates in general? Like, for example, if we say like, what would be the potential disruption in their industry? So, what would be your suggestions on that part for candidates?
For candidates, I would say there's a lot of opportunity where there might have not been before, in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that I think a lot of candidates, both Japanese and foreign, were reluctant to go to traditionally domestic companies. But what we're starting to see is a lot of these traditional domestic companies are starting to create these little bubbles of, like these international talent pools inside of their corporation that are driving disruption and change from within. So don't don't automatically disregard companies based on the title of the book. Let us tell you what the story is about first.
Got it. So you want them to not just judge with the name or with the domestic name, but more on to learn the job content and about the culture, about the mission and vision.
Yep, yep. Because some very, very traditional Japanese companies have some pretty exciting stuff going on right now,
Oh,
actually.
wow. I think that's a
Yep.
very good piece of information because even
Mm,
for anyone, like once it comes to Japanese companies, people are afraid, oh, it's a Japanese company. So what the
mm,
environment would be, what the salary range would be. But then
mm,
again, they have money, they have, the capacity and they're willing to transform and change. So I think we should all kind of not judge, but rather than learn and,
mm.
like apply.
Agreed.
So yeah, I think, so what do you think, Sean, are the trending jobs in your industry right now?
Well, we kind of touched upon this, but just a lot of transformation. So
Absolutely.
that could be software implementations, moving to more modern technology. We've seen a lot with infra upgrades,
Hmm.
moving from traditional server racks, et cetera, to moving everything to cloud. And then and then due to that, there's also been kind of like in between, like middleware, where these companies that are offering solutions between traditionally things that could not talk to the cloud to be able to talk to the cloud. So
Okay, right.
there's some opportunity there as well.
Very
Mm.
interesting. So, as you mentioned, like, so people are moving to cloud, people are moving to transformation. So, in that way, like, what kind of technologies that candidates should really, pick up quickly in order to be trendy in the market?
We've seen a lot in regards to, well, I would say with IT, regardless of this industry or the future, don't get too comfortable because it's always
Right.
changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So try to always stay, even if you're in like a really like comfy position, try to continually learn, keep on top of new technologies, try to at least know what it's about, learn, get some certificates, continue to learn and develop. Otherwise, you're going to hit a point where you're at a certain point in your career and it's very hard to move forward. And then if you're in on the unfortunate situation of finding yourself redundant, it's going to be very hard to find a new role because no one is using AS400 anymore, or these old legacy systems. And if you're an expert in legacy systems but not as in how to implement to a new system, then you're going to be really stuck. So I would just say make sure you're familiar with not just one type of technology, but as many as you can get your hands on. Just be curious.
I
Stay
see. Okay,
curious.
more like
Yeah.
inquisitive and like learning new things every time, every day.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know a little more about the like the salary range in your area
Mm,
because it's a curve, right? So people are it's increasing, decreasing, and there's a very different kind
mm,
of wave going on. So if you can give us a brief like a
mm,
range, that'd be
mm.
helpful.
Well, it really depends on, like I said, my focus area is very broad. So, if it's a data analyst, it's going to be much lower than, a CIO, for example. So it's hard to say, but I will say that, like I said, in 2020, we saw a dip for most people. If they took a job then, or even if they stayed in a job, a lot of bonuses weren't paid. But for 2021, there has been this rush for talent, and if you aren't starting your job search as a client with the right salary, I mean, you're coming to the race with your shoes untied, or maybe they're not on, and the race has started, and you're just going to be playing catch up, and you're going to end up getting the leftovers, right? So, just we issue a salary guide. I recommend
Right, right. I wanted to add that point too. Yeah.
yeah, we issue a salary guide. I recommend using it. taking a good look at it, because it's not based on some numbers that we're making up. It's based on what figures that we've from actual placements that Robert Half has made. So definitely take a look at that. Listen to us when we tell you I don't have any candidates in that price range. You know, take that to heart, because it's the truth, you know. So
I see.
yeah.
Got it. So I think, yeah, Robert Half Salary Guide can be a very helpful tool for candidates as well as clients to know about the current market. Although the things are changing so fast, because, you know, the market in 2020 and 2021 quarter two is totally different, but still it can be a reference point. So Shawn, I think we talk, go ahead.
And if we could just say one more thing on salary, I will say that in salary, or outside of salary, there's like candidates have had a taste of remote work and flex time and, you know, different benefits of not having to come to work. And I will say that these things are going to be more important. We've had, like, I would say at this point, at least 40 to 50% of candidates I talk to, they want some amount of remote work. Right. They like the flexibility of being able to, you know, pick up their kids from school, drop them off, attend school events, etc. Like, be there with their families, work from home, you know, work in a cafe or these types of things. So I would say that at the very least, most clients should probably have a post-COVID plan for what that looks like. Are they gonna offer remote work? Are they gonna offer 3 days in, 2 days out? What does that look like? They should have an idea as to what they plan to do for the future.
Exactly. I personally think it's very important. Flexibility is what we really need. I'll give you an example. So I was preparing a candidate in just 2 days ago. He was supposed to have an interview yesterday. And yesterday morning, he gave us a call and emailed us. I mean, he didn't call, he emailed us saying that he's very sick. And today he had a COVID, he had a test and he found COVID positive. So it's just a matter of a day that people are getting so sick, because he was going to the office. He has to go to the office every day. So yesterday was only a day where he took a day off or something he had, where he arranged to meet our client. But, you know, if you see like this real life examples, how people are being affected with this pandemic, even now, like many countries have finished doing the vaccination, whereas Japan is still lagging behind. But I think the flexibility and companies should, the empathy with which companies should show is really important, just, you know, to save us first. And then, you know, we work and we do a lot of projects. So totally agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it kind of shows, you know, not just if their infrastructure can allow it, then it shows how a company treats their employees, which then, you know, when you feel valued, you tend to value your company, at least from my perspective. Yeah.
For sure.
So
Shawn, I'd like to touch a little few personal things, you know, just out of business. So you mentioned that things have changed a lot since 2020, even for myself, my business, my way of working, and especially my motivation towards my company has really changed. You know, we are having all the flexibilities. So I want to know one thing, like, so in the past 1 year, can you tell us one of your most memorable experience of your placement, whom you placed, and it turned out to be something very memorable after the pandemic or during the pandemic era?
So in regards to like placement, like a placement?
in regards to
I had a really good placement with a candidate. He had been in a company for a really long time. He was ready for a change, ready for something new. And there was a company that was just looking for someone with, to be honest, he was overqualified for the position, but he had the skill set to drive them to where they were going. And he was, like I said, over spec, and we still introduced him, and they were excited about him, and he was excited. And ultimately, in the end, everyone was really, really excited. And he, you know, just reached out to me last week and told me that, you know, he's really excited because he's going to be able to do more in his career and drive this smaller company to where he wants to go. So, I mean, for me, that was like a really great opportunity. And, at one point, he during the thing, the whole process, he wanted to meet in person, and but
Wow.
it was like, it's the way things are. We're like, hey, just so you know, okay, let's meet, and we meet in a cafe outside, and then there's like a little reluctance, but overall, it was a really great experience, and he was, a little nervous to change after being at a company for over a decade, but ultimately, it was a good experience for him and for the company that he went to. So yeah, that was a really good experience,
So,
actually.
so he was an overqualified candidate who was working at a company, bigger company than where he went, or
Yep.
you introduced for over 10 years, and then he joined
Mm.
there, and now he's very happy to drive all the projects for the smaller organization.
Yes. Yes.
All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
I see. That
Yep.
must be quite,
So
yeah, quite rewarding because I think in a smaller company one can create more impact, and if it goes in a positive way, it might be very good.
exactly, and he knew he was ready for that kind of step, but and they also didn't realize what they needed from him.
Mm-hmm.
So like he helped them realize, like, actually you do need someone with my skill set. So it was a really good match, actually. Yeah.
Great,
Mm.
great. We also know, Shawn, because I've been working with you for some time, like you were a
Yeah.
vegan in Tokyo. And I think
Yes.
for me, I personally actually tried to be a vegetarian for a month. I
Mm.
failed. I mean,
Yep.
I surrendered after a month. So I want to know from you, like, how's vegan life in Tokyo? Like, how you find it and how things are overall.
Mm. So I will say that uh, being a vegan in Japan is more difficult than many other countries. But when I first moved here in 2006, I haven't lived here the whole time. I've been back and forth. But the first time I lived here in 2006, it was so hard to be vegan. Like, I would go places no one knew what that word was. I had to explain, oh, I'm a really strict vegetarian, and then all the things I didn't eat. And, a lot of the server staff just look like deer in headlights. And that has changed a lot. I can go to like a Italian restaurant, for example, and say, "Hey, I'm vegan. Do you have any option?" And they understand more. There's more awareness of even just regular food allergies. Do this with no cheese, and then that's okay. And it's much better than it used to be. And there's a lot more vegan restaurants than there used to be, but it is a challenge. I'm not I'm not going to say it's not. It's definitely a challenge, and you have to be uh, what's the word I want to say? You have to be very strict with yourself and your commitment to do this if
Mm-hmm.
if it's important to you for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason you want to do it. But I will say, pre-COVID, the vegan community in Japan was quite strong. They had
Wow.
meetups at least once a month. There's a lady from the UK who's very active. Her name is Nadia. She runs all the like vegan meetups from like meetup.com. And yeah, the community is very strong, and there's Facebook groups, and we're always sharing, oh, I found this vegan thing. It's listed
Mm-hmm.
as vegan, or it's accidentally vegan. And it's a good community. But the main
Mm-hmm.
thing I like about being vegan is just I'm forced to read the label of everything I eat. I
Mm-hmm.
can't just go, oh, this looks good, and pick it up. So I'm very aware of everything I'm putting in my body.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So sometimes I'll pick up some chips, and I'll, go, oh, these chips are vegan, but the list is really long, and I'm like, actually, I don't want to eat these though, like it
I
just
think
doesn't seem healthy. Yeah.
I think yeah, it's also I mean have some relation with spirituality as well because you were so conscious, you were so aware of what you were eating, what you were having. So and also you're so committed, so you're not eating anything or drinking anything, perhaps. So that actually leads you to a different kind of I believe spiritual or mindset. So I think there are a lot of other benefits as well.
Yes, I agree, in the sense that it just it changed my perspective. It changed the food I eat, and it changed my relationship with food.
I see.
I've been vegan for quite a long time, so for me at this point, it's like the same thing as like if I went to a restaurant, and they had like rocks or tree on the menu. Those are not things I eat. It's the same thing. Like it's just that's not food for me.
Got
But
it.
so it is a spiritual change, a mindset change.
I
Yeah.
see. So many people actually say that recruitment or sales job must be quite tiring if it's not
Mm.
if someone does not really know how to unwind themselves. So I just want to
Yeah.
know from you, like I think you're very active and quite health conscious. So how do you unwind yourself on a daily basis?
I mostly unwind through riding my bike, actually. So I during the pandemic, I rediscovered my love of cycling,
Mm-hmm.
and because I was trying to avoid riding the train. And one thing I found actually is when I would ride the train, I would think about work on the way in, and you're getting bumped around on the train, and it's a frustrating experience. And then still checking emails and writing emails on the way home on the train. And I found that when I ride my bike in and I ride my bike out, I'm focused on seeing the beautiful stuff and not getting
Wow.
hit by cars. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it allows me to just like, this is the beginning of work and this is the end of work. And then
Do you still
also
bike?
there's the health benefits. What's that?
Did you still bike? Because I mean nowadays as well.
Oh yeah, I biked into the office this morning.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add one more thing because most
Mm.
of the cities which are considered as the most livable cities or most healthy or happy cities, most of the
Mm.
citizens of those countries are actually biking or taking not using the public transport, but more like walking, biking, or things like that.
Mm.
So to
Mm.
add that point, like, do you think Tokyo is a bike-friendly city?
It's a semi-bike friendly city, in my opinion, in that the streets are very clean. There's
Okay.
no trash in the gutters. And the streets themselves are usually quite immaculate, at least compared to
Hmm.
where I'm from in
Okay.
America. And then beyond that, Boston. Um, but it's not totally bike friendly in the sense that they don't want you to ride on the sidewalk. And then
Hmm.
they basically painted a line on the street that I just call like a painted gutter.
Hmm.
It's not a proper bike lane. Like a proper bike lane to me is there's the street traffic, there's a lane, a barrier to
Yeah.
block cars, a proper bike lane, and then there's a barrier, and then there is a sidewalk. That's a
Okay.
proper bike lane. That's a proper bike structure for me. But I will say that in general, I find Japanese drivers to be pretty defensive, and in the sense that they're pretty cautious. They're used to looking for scooters, at least compared to
Okay.
America. So overall, I find it a very pleasant place to ride my bike. Not too hilly. I mean, it is hilly, but not too bad, and
Mhm.
very clean streets. It's easy to go very quickly, and yeah,
So
quite
I think
quite
you were
nice.
from Boston, right? Or if I'm
Yes,
not, yeah.
yeah.
So comparing to Boston, you'd say, or it was the same, like the level of riding bike in Tokyo.
Boston is a much more dangerous place to ride a bike, I would say. Yeah,
Okay.
it's windier. There's a lot of trash in the gutters. It snows a lot. I mean, it's an incredibly windy city.
Hmm.
And then uh, there is a term for Massachusetts drivers, which I don't want to say in this family podcast, but it includes a swear word and the word mass from Massachusetts combined.
Hmm.
And that's how the drivers drive, very
I
aggressively.
see. I see very
So
aggressively.
not the safest place to ride a bike.
I see. So maybe for our like the listeners who are listening to this podcast, or even the future, engineers who'll be coming to Japan, the good news is they can bike here and they can still, by biking they can go to work and come back. So I think that's a very great thing, right? I mean,
Yes,
being
yeah.
able to bike and work, great. So Shawn, I think so. How do you keep yourself up to date, like in this technological era, like post-pandemic, pre-pandemic? So what do you really do in general, not in terms of recruitment, but in life, like in general?
In terms of life, I've actually tried to turn myself off from the news cycle because I found it was affecting my mental health, to be
Right.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much watch, there's like one YouTuber I like to watch.
Mm-hmm.
He gives me the news that I need in
Lovely.
15 minutes every morning, just 5 days a week, maybe sometimes 4 days a week. Philip DeFranco, I watch him, get my world news from there. And if anything piques my interest, then I do a little more research. And then I like to, I use RSS feed still, and I like to check some tech blogs. So I try to stay on top of tech.
I see.
So what through Verge, Vox, MKBHD, a YouTuber. I
Yeah.
stay on top of tech that way. And then if they talk about anything that is inside of chips or inside of computers or technology, I look deeper into that. Like for example, Apple just moved to the ARM-based chips. So I
Yeah.
did a lot of research on what ARM was, where they came from, how that all developed, and where is it
Mhm.
now.
Wow. So
Yeah,
you were quite up to
that's
date. I mean, for me, it will take a long time to go and research what Apple is making, or so like yeah. I mean, I think for us as this generation, we're very much into YouTube. I mean, I'm in Japan for the last 7, 8 years. I never watched television in this last 7, 8 years. So always my
yes,
source of entertainment, information. I think everything is pretty much the internet these days. So totally agree.
yes, yeah, yeah, same.
Great. So
Yeah.
maybe I will try to wrap up this conversation today. So if there is one thing, one takeaway our audience can absorb from this episode with you, Shawn, what that one takeaway would be from our conversation today?
Well, I would say based on what I do, like personally, and then what I mentioned earlier about like just stay like learning is just stay curious. Like I
Okay.
think everyone should stay curious. Everyone should keep an open mind. Don't get too stuck in doing the same thing over and over again. Even like, sometimes I ride my bike home a different way.
Hmm.
Sometimes I would take a different train line or get off at a different station and walk like a different amount of like, to just see the area I don't normally see. And the same thing for technology. If you work in technology, just stay curious. If you are an HR recruiter in a company, stay curious. What's the current market? Ask your hiring managers why they need this, or what's the need, and why is the salary this. Like, just stay curious. Just always ask questions.
Yeah.
So
Yesterday, out of this curiosity point you're saying, like I heard a new term called chaos engineering. So I think,
uh,
DevOps is a very hot topic these days, and many
mm,
DevOps engineer or quality assurance engineer are gonna bring this. It's not yet available, but they're gonna
mm,
introduce this new concept called chaos engineering, and they're gonna test a lot of chaotic situations, like kind of simulate. So I think, those kind of new things, and not only just listening, but also picking and
mm.
implementing those, new things would be very essential for us in the future.
Agreed. I'm actually was already going to open my notes here to take a note to like look up what that is. So
For sure.
that's
Chaos
my
engineering.
research.
Yeah.
That's my research for this weekend.
Lovely, mate. So yeah, I think we're end of this conversation. I will definitely tag your LinkedIn link so that people can reach out to you and learn more about what you do and how you help the market. So
Great.
yeah, thank you very
I
much
appreciate
everybody
it.
for listening this, and I really appreciate Shawn for your time today.
Yeah, and AB, thanks for having me.